Hey everyone, let's jump right into today's explainer. Today, we're breaking down Roblox's Q1 2026 earnings report, and we're analyzing this data specifically for institutional stakeholders. Look, if you've been following the gaming and digital platform sector at all recently, you already know that Roblox is right in the middle of a really fascinating transition. So today, we're going to unpack the numbers, examine the strategic shift management is making, and decode that really delicate balance between the short-term friction they're facing and their long-term growth flywheel. This is an absolutely crucial professional analyst briefing for anyone who's actively tracking the future of digital ecosystems.
Just a quick note before we really get into the weeds, this video is for educational purposes and not financial advice.
Okay, so here's a quick roadmap for our briefing today. We'll start with number 1, introduction and Q1 highlights. Then number 2, revenue and cash flow metrics. 3, expanding the over 18 audience. 4, platform safety and headwinds. And finally, number 5, adjusted guidance and outlook.
Let's start right off with Section 1, Introduction and Q1 Highlights.
The top-line story here is honestly massive. We're talking an impressive $1.4 billion in revenue and 132 million daily active users. That is a massive 35% growth year over year. I mean, just think about that scale for a second. 132 million people are logging into this ecosystem every single day, and it doesn't stop there. Hours engaged increased by 43% year over year, hitting a staggering 31 billion hours for the quarter. For institutional investors looking closely at user acquisition and retention, these figures really confirm that the underlying appeal of the platform remains incredibly robust, even as the company navigates some pretty significant internal policy shifts that we'll get into shortly.
You know, what's really interesting here is the sheer scale of management's ambition. Positioning Roblox to capture 10% of the global gaming content market, that is a monumental target. It clearly tells us that leadership doesn't just view Roblox as a niche sandbox for kids anymore. They view it as a primary entertainment destination, competing directly with the biggest legacy publishers and social media giants in the world.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, revenue and cash flow metrics. Despite the intentional friction we're going to discuss later, Roblox generated a massive $629 million in operating cash flow, which is up 42% year over year. I mean, that is definitely not small change. This is a phenomenal indicator of the company's operating leverage. As engagement scales up to that mind-blowing 31 billion hour mark, the cost of servicing those users is being really effectively managed, and that allows an increasing percentage of that $1.4 billion in revenue to flow straight down into the company's operational coffers.
So the crucial point is that they're backing up that operational efficiency with $596 million in free cash flow, up 40% year over year. Now, for institutional stakeholders, free cash flow is basically the ultimate truth teller, right? It gives Roblox the immense flexibility to reinvest in their developer community, fund some really aggressive R&D into artificial intelligence and safety systems, and comfortably weather the short-term storms they're actively choosing to sail into.
Let's pivot to Section 3, expanding the over 18 audience. Currently, a full 26% of DAUs who have age-checked are now over 18, which shows us some really meaningful penetration into the largest segment of the traditional gaming market. This is a massive demographic shift. Historically, Roblox was basically viewed as a platform for preteens, almost like a virtual babysitter. But breaking into the adult market fundamentally changes the lifetime value of a user. It attracts a completely different, much higher tier of brand partnerships and advertising dollars.
So, what's actually driving this? Well, we're seeing a 50% surge in the 18 to 34 cohort, and that's powered by some very aggressive strategic investments like personalized video previews and targeted off-platform ad spend. In the US alone, DAUs and hours for the over 18 cohort both grew by 40%. Management is getting incredibly smart about how they acquire these users. They're scanning for early signals of novel games that appeal to adults and then aggressively deploying off-platform advertising with a strict focus on a high return on ad spend, or ROAS. Once those older users actually hit the platform, features like dynamic video previews on the home screen are successfully capturing their attention and driving real engagement.
Okay, let's dive into Section 4, platform safety and headwinds.
This is essentially the core narrative of the quarter. Management is willingly accepting slower user acquisition right now to build a fundamentally safer, more accurately targeted platform for the future. By restricting on-platform communication for non-age-checked users, they're actively putting up barriers to entry. Naturally, that dilutes communication and slows down new user growth in the immediate term. But the trade-off here is profound. By establishing verified ages, Roblox can serve age-appropriate content, tailor communication experiences, and drastically improve overall community sentiment. So it's short-term pain for an incredibly lucrative long-term gain. The proactive age checks in the new RM3 safety system, which is their automated moderation tool that bans roughly 5,000 violating instances every single day, are creating that temporary friction but fueling the flywheel of high-quality older user retention. The technology behind this is genuinely fascinating. They aren't just asking someone to upload an ID, they're actually using facial age estimation paired with incredibly sophisticated passive signals. Things like a user's historical play data, their social graphs, and their economic activity on the platform are all used to verify age. Globally, 51% of DAOs are already age-checked, and in the US that number is an impressive 65%. If you don't verify, you default to a restricted account with chat completely disabled. It is a harsh but completely necessary line in the sand to guarantee platform safety.
Finally, let's bring it all together in Section 5, Adjusted Guidance and Outlook.
This updated guidance reflects a direct continuation of those safety headwinds, adjusting their top-line growth expectations. Management is being incredibly transparent here, which you always like to see. They are openly acknowledging that the aggressive push to enhance safety is lowering their expectations for top-line user and bookings growth in the back half of the year.
But here is the crucial takeaway. While revenue growth is dialed in at 20 to 25% and bookings at a more modest 8 to 12%, the underlying cash flow generation remains extremely robust. They're still projecting operating cash flow between $1.6 and $1.7 billion and free cash flow between $1.1 and $1.3 billion for the year. This basically proves that while user acquisition might slow down slightly due to the friction of that age verification, the users who are on the platform are highly engaged in monetizing incredibly efficiently. The core business model isn't fundamentally threatened by these safety measures, it's merely being refined for the next stage of growth.
So as institutional investors digest this transition, the overarching question remains, will this immediate safety friction unlock that massive lucrative older demographic in the long run? Roblox is betting their entire ecosystem that a safer, verified platform is the absolute only way to reach their goal of connecting 1 billion users with optimism and civility. The impressive cash flow generation gives them the runway to execute this pivot, but all eyes are going to be on those over 18 demographic growth numbers in the coming quarters to see if the flywheel truly accelerates. If you found this breakdown valuable, like and subscribe for more videos.